does for the same starting from year 2000 itself. Have worked on all the releases till date, including the cross-platform version of it that is .NET Core, and now it is called as .NET Platform simply. Besides the .NET development, I have been delivering consulting assignments and trainings on SQL Server databases, along with that, SQL Server reporting services, analysis services, integration services. Then I started working on the web applications also around 2004 and 5. I started with classic ASP, then moved on to ASP.NET, which eventually got me into ASP.NET MVC, web APIs, the other service-oriented frameworks that Microsoft had, like .NET Remoting, enterprise services. Then we had WCF for quite some time. Web services were there. Since 2010, I'm working extensively on Microsoft Azure also, right from its public preview, and have explored most of the services offered by Microsoft Azure till date. Beside that, I do work on the client-side frameworks also, like Angular, React, Vue.js. Prior to that, I used to work on Knockout and Backbone.js also, but that's no more being used in the market. So I have also dropped the same. And beside this, the other area where I'm extensively working on is Microsoft Azure IoT services. And while going through all these things, by default, I'm making use of Azure DevOps services as well. It all started with the Microsoft product, which was designed for on-premises server environments, named as Team Foundation Server. And then we had Visual Studio Team System, that was the client to TFS. So it all started with that, and then eventually I moved into Azure DevOps. So DevOps, precisely, I work mainly with Azure DevOps only. The other DevOps tool I didn't get chance to work with at all because of the requirements being on Azure DevOps more than anything else. Uh, so that is one of the reason why I'm here to present this session. And this session focuses mainly on the Azure 400 or AZ 400 certification, which actually revolves around the Azure DevOps services only. So practically, this session is not for actually learning what all uh, content is there for AZ 400. You can understand 1.5 hours is not going to be enough for covering such a vast thing. This presentation is more about understanding what this certification is all about, what this certification requires from us to get ourselves prepared for this exam, and what should be our approach, what all resources are there that can be used to prepare for AZ 400, and so on. Okay, so more of a curtain raiser kind of session for AZ 400 certification preparation. We do have the full-time courses also that we keep on delivering, which are aligned towards AZ 400 certification. Usually 3 to 5 days of sessions are there, full day sessions. That means 8 hours per day, and that actually makes you prepared for AZ 400. So after attending the session with a week's practice or maybe couple of weeks of practice, you can target yourself appearing for the certification, and 80 to 90% chances are there that you will be able to clear it if your preparation goes in the right direction. So 10-20% chances of errors are there if preparation is not done properly. If you just follow the guidelines shared during the session and even in this presentation also, you should be good enough to crack the certification easily. Okay, so let's get started. So here is the agenda for this session, which is divided in 5 sections, 5 main sections, I would say, which starts with overview of AZ400 certification. So as I said, we will be talking about what the certification is all about, what all things are covered into it, what skills are measured, the format of the exam, and then some information on how to register for this exam, how to schedule the exam for ourselves. Then we'll talk about in detail the exam objectives, what weightage is given to each of the objective, what resources are available to learn about each objective, followed by the next section that is on tips and strategies for preparing for AZ400 certification. Section wise, we will talk about what all things are required, what all things you need to focus on, something on mock exams and practice tests, and then what to do and what not to do on exam day. Okay. So I guess there is a typo. Just give me a moment. Just preparing couple of presentations for multiple sessions actually. So that's why the typo. AZ400 exam is also called as, or I would say the official name for which is Microsoft Azure DevOps Solutions. AZ400 is the exam code and the name of the exam is Microsoft Azure DevOps Solutions, which is a Microsoft Azure certification that is part of the Microsoft Certified DevOps Engineer Expert certification path and learning path. There are multiple other certifications which come into this category. So this is one of the certification from this line or this path. Usually, if you are targeting AZ400, what should be your background? Your background should be like you are working as DevOps engineer already and looking to add a credential to your profile by being certified. Again, DevOps engineer need not be necessarily needing the expertise on AZ or Azure DevOps part only. You can be having the DevOps engineering expertise using any DevOps tool, but now probably because of the project requirement, you have been asked to work on Azure DevOps, and probably there is a need that you need to be certified into that also, or you just need to add it to your credential. Basically, being certified adds to your credential and that enhances your uh, career also, right? So any DevOps engineer probably is the right professional to appear for this AZ400 exam. Okay. What are the skills that are measured in this exam? There are around 9 main sections which are measured. Mostly, if you see the topics, these are all DevOps things only, which starts with developing an instrumentation strategy, developing site reliability engineering or SRE strategy, developing security and compliance plan, where you create the policies and all, managing the source control along with version control, then something on facilitating communications and collaborations, which actually focuses mainly on CI/CD things. So that's where we talk about defining and implementing continuous integration, continuous delivery, dependency management, and application infrastructure. So these are the areas which are ideally measured within this exam. The weightage for each of the section would be coming into one of the slide. So let's proceed to the next one. Next question obviously is what is the format of the exam? Okay, so one more typo here. Very sorry for that. Sometimes happens because if you're working on multiple things at the same time, this is very likely, right? So AZ 400 exam basically is a proctored online exam that can be taken from anywhere. It can be from your home, it can be from your workplace, it can be from any closed environment, basically, where you need to be alone. There should be no one roaming around you because your webcam is supposed to be on all the time. And basically, your video is continuously captured while you are attempting the exam. So it's just like virtual invigilation is happening over there. And any unwanted activity probably can cancel your credential that you earn. Okay, I mean, the results can be declared as failed. I hope you understand that. Okay, I hope that is clear as well. So your microphone and your webcam is supposed to be on all the time during the exam is going on. Once you start the exam, till the end of the exam, it should be on. You cannot mute your mic, you cannot shut off your webcam. If that is done, you are immediately declared as failed. Okay, but the advantage is you can just appear for it from anywhere. Calm and quiet and close space should be enough. Okay. Within office also, if you are looking to appear for this exam, that's okay. Just that you need to go to some uh, conference room or some other space, isolated space, which will be booked only for you for the entire duration of the exam, so that there is no hindrance around you, no sound, and no one roaming around you should be there. Okay. Next is what kind of questions are asked. So there are mainly two categories of questions which will be coming into the exam. One is the usual one for conceptual knowledge. Basically, you get set of MCQs, multiple choice questions. When I say multiple choice, there may be one or more correct answers to a certain question, and you get marks if and only if you select all the correct options. Otherwise, there is some negative marking as well. If you don't attempt, if you don't attempt a certain question, simply there is no negative marking for that. It will be counted as zero. But if you attempt and it is not complete, or if it is incorrect, there is negative marking. If all the correct options are selected, you get full marks. Okay, the second category of questions is some lab tasks are simulated. You get the simulation of the tooling and the portal and all. There is Azure DevOps portal as well. And then Visual Studio also contains some tooling. The other tools are also there. So there could be a simulation based task also, which requires some practical things to be done. There would be a small case study presented to you, asking you to achieve something specific. And the way how you do it, the entire process is captured. Along with that, the final result is also taken into account. And then accordingly, you are given the marks. Okay. Sometimes the questions could be drag and drop based also instead of the simulation based stuff, where you just need to arrange the steps in the proper sequence. Like the question could be, how do I do this XYZ thing? So there are 7 or 8 steps. So there might be 8 or more options provided to you. You have to choose the correct options, and you have to arrange them in the correct sequence. So basically, you have to make a kind of a flow chart. If it is correctly arranged, you are given the full marks. Otherwise, negative marking, right? Next is how many questions would I be getting? So the number of questions is not fixed. It's randomly generated exam. So depends what kind of or what level of questions you're getting. If more easy questions are included, probably the number of questions would be on higher side. If the questions are little complex, probably the number of questions will be on the lower side. On an average, around 40 to 60 questions are there in the exam. There may be little less, little more also. That's why I said it is an average. Time limit for this particular exam is around 180 minutes. So it may not be exact 180 minutes. It could be 170 minutes also. It could be 190 minutes also, depending on the complexity of the questions which are included into your question set. Some extra time is also counted for completing some of the formalities, like before starting the exam, you need to put some details. So some extra time is 10-15 minutes of time is for that. And that is actually added to your total duration. So even if your exam duration is 150 minutes, you might have 15 minutes extra. That makes it 165 minutes. Okay. Another important question over here is how much I need to score to get the exam cleared. So minimum 700 points you have to score in order to clear your exam. We call it as points, we don't call it as marks basically, because this is not a typical school or college exam. It is more about measuring your skills. So if you have scored minimum of 700 points, you are declared as cleared. Okay. Any questions on this? Okay, let's move ahead. So how do I register for the exam? There are basic steps involved in that. First of all, you need to have a Microsoft ID created. Microsoft ID could be by default Hotmail or Outlook or live.com ID. Or now Microsoft allows you to use any ID of your choice to be used as Microsoft ID as well. With the help of that, you have to actually create a Microsoft certification profile if this exam is going to be your first ever exam from Microsoft. If you have ever appeared for any other certification exam, your certification profile may already exist. So you just need to log in with that ID. Profile, if needs any changes, like your contact details or something need to be changed, you can update it, but that's not mandatory. Okay. Next is you have to choose the exam delivery method. Now, what is that? There are two modes using which the exam can be appeared for. One is the proctored online exam using your own laptop. Probably you can laptop or desktop. You can just log in and appear for the exam in the environment which we discussed earlier. The other option is you can actually look for some testing center which Microsoft has partnered with for conducting the exams. In that case, the entire environment is provided by the testing center, and there is a physical invigilator also who will be there within the room to look to actually invigilate for you for that particular exam, along with the other things like webcam and microphone. That is a need in that case also. Okay. So that's where we need to choose the exam delivery method. We need to decide basically. And based on that, within the certification uh, registration, we have to choose. If it is proctored online, there will be no location that needs to be mentioned. If it is going to be the exam being given at a testing center, you actually need to select the location, select the testing center also where you want to appear for, so that the seat will be booked for you on your chosen time. It's not guaranteed that the seat will be available. So based on which exam center you are selecting, the availability will be displayed, and within that you then need to select and book your seat. Okay. And then the exam scheduling actually happens. So on what date, what time you are actually planning to appear for the exam, then you pay for the exam fees, which is INR 4800 or $199. It all depends on which region you are going to appear for the exam, right? So more or less the currency might be equivalent. Slight difference might be there because of different taxation applicable in different countries and different regions. The next stage is you start preparing for the exam, then take the exam and receive your results. Let's talk about the objectives of the exam. So as we discussed, there are around 10 different objectives that basically you have to target. Designing a DevOps strategy, implementing DevOps development processes, implementing CI/CD, implementing dependency management, implementing application infrastructure, where we focus on infrastructure as a code, basically. Then implementing the continuous feedback system, which is a part of agile methodology, in fact, right? So where the product owner probably will be involved. Then implementing a secure and compliant development process. Different regions, different countries have different policies, and for which region, for which country you are developing the application for, you probably need to follow their rules. That's where the compliance come in, right? And this is basically to make sure that right user get the access to the application and the data via the application, right? Then design a release strategy followed by mobile DevOps strategy in case if you are looking to develop some mobile apps also. Here comes the exact weightage, what is applicable for a certain topic or certain objective. Instrumentation strategy, 5 to 10% weightage is there. Site reliability engineering also gets 5 to 10% of weightage. Security and compliance plan, 10 to 15%, little higher. Reason, security and compliance is very important. Managing source control is again 10 to 15%, because when you have your applications in place without source controls, the team-based development is simply not possible these days. Teamwork in virtual environments also. Teamwork in different locations as well. There might be some members on site, there might be some members off site. So how they collaborate, that's where the source control plays an important role. And along with that, the version control also is provided by it. So these are all very, very important and integral part of your project development processes. Then communication and collaboration gets 10 to 15% of weightage. Implementing continuous integration has the highest weightage of 20 to 25%, because that's where your code build activity is targeted. Then comes the deployment part. Continuous delivery takes care of it. 10 to 15% weightage goes to that, followed by dependency management, 5 to 10%, application infrastructure, 5 to 10% again. Okay. Now, why range is given? Why not exact number? whether it is 5%, 8%, 10%, whatever, because the questions are always randomly generated. Now, those questions, whatever are generated, will fall in this range only. It will not be below 5 and above 10 if the category says that 5 to 10% weightage is there for that category. I hope that is clear to all.
Yes.
What are the resources that are available to learn about each of the objectives? It all starts with Microsoft official documentation, not only what you have on Microsoft's website for the specific product. Usually for Azure DevOps, you need Microsoft Azure as well as Azure DevOps both at the same time. And we do have two different websites for the official documentation for Microsoft Azure and Microsoft Azure DevOps, right? Which includes explanations, which includes conceptual discussions, which includes the step-by-step guides or what we usually call as hands-on labs, along with some examples for each and every objective in the exam, right? Now, there is an interactive version of this documentation which assists in learning those features as well. That is called as Microsoft Learn. So there is a website actually officially designed by Microsoft by the name Microsoft Learn, though the path for it is different. docs.microsoft.com, then the language code, then followed by Learn. URL is already mentioned, correct? You can just Google out Microsoft Learn. There is a different subdomain also that has been created, which is mapped to this URL, learn.microsoft.com, which leads to the same website once more. Okay, where you can actually search for the module that you are targeting. So let's say whatever the topic or objective you are looking for AZ400, you can search for it and you will find different learning paths, tutorials, hands-on labs, etc. for assist you in your learning process, along with some assessments integrated with it, so that you can reinforce your understanding for that particular topic or objective. Next thing that Microsoft provides you to get prepared is Microsoft's official practice tests, which are very, very near to the exact kind of exam questions which are asked in the real exam. With these practice tests, you get the exact idea of what will be the level of questions, what will be the type of questions. These questions may not be the actual questions from the actual exam, but yes, they give you some confidence like what kind of questions will be there, what type of questions will be there, right? So it gives you complete net practice. Apart from the Microsoft official documentation, Microsoft Learn, and the official practice test, you have different training courses also, the information of which is shared by Microsoft as well. So there are multiple instructor-led training courses that are being offered by Microsoft officially, where they partner with different training provider organizations like ours, that is Optimistic Infosystems. And then you are actually free to choose your learning partner as well. Wherever you find yourself comfortable with, basically you can just appear for the course and prepare for the exam. This course can be an individual workshop that you are attending on your own, or it could be some sort of workshop being conducted within your company premises, officially sponsored by your company itself. Right now, when you are doing it on your own, you need to find where to attend. Whereas if your company is offering you the same based on nominations, In that case, it is company's learning and development department which will be doing all the coordination, whether they are uh, looking for this workshop to be delivered by Microsoft or by their partners, I mean, Microsoft partners or their own learning partners. I mean, your company's own learning partners. Okay. Beside this, we do have lots of online communities and forums. So we recommend that you should be joining them so that you can get a lot of up-to-date information on the same. And with forums, you can actually ask your queries and clear your doubts pretty easily because there are many other people who might be active, some of whom might have already cleared the exam, some of whom might be actually preparing for the exam like you, but they know the topic very well. So they can help you out in learning something or doubts cleared. And then we do have some official books and study guides also available. There is an official study guide from Microsoft also. Microsoft offers an official curriculum MOC for AZ400, right? Let's move on to the next section where we'll be talking about the tips and strategies for preparing for AZ400 certification. Not some rocket science, just some of the basic things that we do take care of while we talk about any of the exam that is going to be appeared by us. So it all starts with understanding the exam objectives. I mean, what all topics are there? First, understand them, then start preparing one topic at a time with the help of the official documentations available, with the help of the learning paths available, right? Start practicing with some hands-on experience because most of the questions are case study based. Here, just learning by heart is not going to help. There will be scenarios presented, and hence you need to have some hands-on experience. And that's where the real world scenarios being practiced also will help. If you don't find it sufficient, you can actually look for some competent, relevant online courses and tutorials for the same. If still you don't get the confidence, you have the choice of appearing or attending some training program, whether it's official from Microsoft or it might be from some third party vendor, right? Then the next step, once you start feeling confident about your knowledge, you can start attempting the practice tests and sample questions, which will actually give you the analysis on where you are, how much you are prepared, 40%, 50%, 60%, 90%, or 100%. Okay, once you cross 90% success rate within the practice test, random practice test, I would say, you can say that you are actually prepared for the exam. To further polish yourself, you can actually engage in some hands-on projects, which might be your ongoing projects within your organization, or you can actually build some kind of POC projects, right? To get the real world experience. And then, as I said, groups and forums you can join, which are specifically meant for exam preparation. There you get the final guidance, final clarification on the doubts that you might be having. One last time, you can just go through the entire documentation and white papers available, blogs which are there, then some basic things like time management and regular study. And then this process needs to be repeated until and unless you don't feel at least 90% confident about being ready for the exam. So this will help you review and reinforce the weaker areas for you. You might be very good in maybe 5 of the objectives out of 9 which are there for this exam, but there are 4 other areas also where you might need some more work. So this process is actually a cycle. This cycle completes when you actually feel that, okay, I'm ready. And then you register for the exam and appear for it. One way is you register for the exam first and then start preparing. That pushes you to prepare better. That's my experience. If you don't have registered, in that case, there is no push for you or self push for you. You might take it casually. And usually what happens is, okay, I have not yet registered, so I have a lot of time. And this lot of time probably just slips out of hands at times. By the time you prepare your mind and you start actually preparing for the exam itself might get updated and replaced by some new version. And then it just starts all over again, right? So best option is to register for the exam first and then start preparing. Maybe you can take the date from the next month. You have 1 month time to prepare for the exam. Just push yourself and prepare well and appear, right? And if you prepare well, obviously you will be able to crack it. Don't target 700 points, target 1000 points only, so that you can score 700, 800 points easily that way. Okay, now moving on to the next part, how to approach the different sections of the exam. There are total 9 sections as we have discussed earlier, which starts with the first section, that is developing an implementation strategy or instrumentation strategy. So what all things you have to do? There are subtopics into it which you have to focus on, like understanding instrumentation concepts, what instrumentation actually is. Learn Azure Monitor, one of the surveys from Azure that allows you to keep track of what's going on within my applications. Health monitoring and performance monitoring. A lot of monitoring tools are available, which require some sort of instrumentation within the code also that records the different checkpoints, and the data for analysis is put into the Azure Monitor, and then Azure Monitor prepares the dashboards for that. This instrumentation is done with the help of Microsoft Azure Application Insight Service. Once the instrumentation is in place, your data is being collected. Probably the next level is basically to use log analytics service, which will allow you to see what's going on. The analytical data will be made available to you, based on which some statistic information can be generated. Dashboards can actually be customized. Then understanding the diagnostic settings. Diagnostic settings are important because that is something which will help you in keeping the health of your application actually healthy, right? And then comes Azure Metrics. Metrics usually talk about the overall performance of the application, resource utilization and all. How many requests came in, how many requests or how many responses went out, how many requests were successful, how many requests failed. All this information comes from Azure Metrics, which is ultimately integrated within Log Analytics and Azure Monitor as well. And then any other third-party tools which can be integrated with Azure. Next section is SRE, Site Reliability Engineering. So here you need to understand the core of what site reliability engineering is, what are the tools available for the same in Azure, and then some specific areas which come under SRE, like incident management, disaster recovery, redundancy, backups and restore services. That's something which you have to focus on in this section. Next is developing a security and compliance plan. It all starts with Azure security services, which are on offer by default. What is compliance? What is governance? What is the relation between the two? What is their relation with respect to security? Then the best practices to be used, practicing with Azure security, reviewing the different security scenarios, creating and actually testing your implementation against those scenarios, probably some sort of hacking also you might need in order to see if your implementation is properly done or not. Something where we also make use of penetration testing and all. Then understanding the shared responsibility model, because we work in teams, different teams might be taking care of different aspects. So that's where the shared responsibility model becomes important. And then the compliance standards which are in place. Moving on to the next section, that is managing source control. So all the basic stuff coming in over here, like what is source control, why it is important, what it does, what all things it provides, how the source control is available in Azure DevOps. So that starts with Azure repos, Git repos. So understanding the same, implementing with some hands-on practice or hands-on scenarios. Then the concept of branching, when to branch, when not to branch. What is pull request when it comes into picture? Then integration with the build pipelines, right? And then, as I said, Git is also included here. So if you are using Git repo, probably you need to understand how to work with Git CLI, how to handle the conflicts, basically the conflict management thing. So this is applicable not only for Git, it is applicable for Azure repos also. Then the security and permissions that you set, then tags and the releases for Git, and then Azure Repo CLI and REST API for Azure Repo. Okay, so these are the topics that basically needs to be targeted under managing source control. Next is communication and collaboration. So it all starts with the understanding of Azure DevOps services, agile practices, because Azure DevOps has been built on the top of agile mainly. So this is something which you cannot avoid. Agile, general agile practices, methodologies, then Scrum Agile. Scrum is something which is heavily used, usually with Azure DevOps. So Scrum Agile, then the version control and repository concept. Some overlapping things are there definitely. CI/CD concepts, security and access control, integration with the third-party tools, and then reporting and metrics. Next is continuous integration. So what is continuous integration? What it does, what it is responsible for, its relation with DevOps services, what are Azure pipelines, what continuous integration has to do with Azure pipelines. Now you're talking about integration. So basically the build services are there. That's where you need to actually think of automated testing as well, which all starts with some developer checking in the code. So source control, receiving the checked in code, where the automated testing getting triggered. If the results are positive, then probably the CI pipeline gets activated, right? Then the different artifacts which are created in the build process, managing those artifacts is also important. So that's the next topic. Security and compliance will be there in each stage. And then there could be some issues while building the application. So troubleshooting and debugging also comes into that. It's not only about the application, it's sometimes about your CI pipeline as well. Because CI pipeline is again code based, that itself may have some issues. Your workflows may not be defined properly. So troubleshooting and debugging is applicable to that as well. Similar things next coming into the continuous delivery. So what is continuous delivery? What role it plays in the development process, its relation with DevOps, Azure pipelines, again, CD also depends on pipelines, automated builds, automated testing, deployment strategies, because CD is more about the deployment. Then the next part is release gates and approval processes. Deployment packages might get ready, but then from which channels they will be released to the end users, how the uh, approval is going to take place or will be implemented, integration with various Azure artifacts, and then, as I said, security and compliance there in every stage. Next is implementing dependency management. So here, main focus you can see is on the package managers. Precisely, if your application is .NET based, we talk about NuGet package manager. If it is more on the client side web development, probably you might have npm, yarn, etc., right? And different other package managers applicable for different technology platforms. So depending on which technology being used to develop the application, the respective packages and their package managers will be important. So that's all about this section, because these days the dependencies are all configured and managed with package managers only. No more we work with the individual dependencies, because package managers make it really, really easy. Next section is implementing application infrastructure. So here it all starts with Azure core services. What all things Azure provides us for implementing the infrastructure. So little bit of understanding of infrastructure as a service, platform as a service also will be required. Core cloud concepts. Then the different architectural patterns. Then on Azure, how the services are deployed, what are resources, what are resource groups, what are the naming conventions to be followed. Then infrastructure as a code comes in over here, because here with the help of code only you prepare your infrastructure. If it is a cloud-based application, most likely you will be using Azure ARM templates, Azure Resource Manager templates, in order to prepare your infrastructure to host your application. Then comes DevOps services, CI/CDs, monitoring, diagnostics, security and compliance, followed by backup and recovery of your application, not data this time, right? So those were the 9 sections and their subsections or subtopics. Next section is about what are the best resources available to study for the exam, some of which we already discussed, right? Like Microsoft Official Learning Paths, documentation, learning paths from Microsoft Learn and LinkedIn Learning. Microsoft documentation is docs.microsoft.com, then practice tests, then different online courses and platforms like Udemy, uh, Pluralsight, and there are so many others. Then offline courses, the courses being run by different training organizations like Optimistic Infosystems and the others. Then community forums and study groups is another thing that we can actually target and make use of it effectively. And then on the top, the most important part is hands-on experience. Some of the books which you can refer for preparing for AZ400. You can take a snapshot of this screen. So this is not specifically for AZ400, but in general, what DevOps says, and what Azure DevOps is. So different books targeting different areas. And these are not the only books. There are many other books available. These are the most popular ones. Because regardless of the tool and platform that you use for DevOps, the concepts of DevOps remain the same. So if your concepts are clear, learning Azure DevOps is not going to take a lot of time, and then preparing and appearing for the exam also will be easy. These are some of the useful blogs. You can take a snapshot of this as well. So you have the new URL for Microsoft Learn Center as well, learn.microsoft.com. Official documentation available on docs.microsoft.com. Officially, Microsoft provides us the DevOps labs for a small POC project. Those are sufficient basically for learning. AzureDevOpsLabs.com. Then official DevOps blog is there, devblogs.microsoft.com/DevOps. And then the remaining are all third-party ones. Cloudskills.io, thomasmaurer.ch, build59s.com, ravikirans.com, incyclesoftware.com/blog, devopsgroup.com/blog. These are all third-party.
Hi, Saket.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, can you please share these links in the chat box? That will be better to taking the as
Sure,
compared to
sure,
taking
sure,
snapshot.
sure. I'll
Sure,
I'll do that. I'll do
sure.
that.
Thank you.
Payal, if you are there, you can actually share the same. I'll share the presentation with you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That
Yeah.
would be okay.
Okay. Some online courses. So very popular platforms I have put, but there are many, right? Now let's understand mock exams and practice tests. Important, right? Because they simulate the exact exam environment with timer, give the real feel of the exam. So with this, whether we are able to solve all the questions within the stipulated time or not is something which we can check. And the time management can be improvised with the help of these exams. Not only time management, the overall preparation basically can be judged, right? What all things I know very well, what all things I'm weak in, what all things I need little more preparation, along with the time management improvement. These all benefits I get with the mock exams and the practice tests, right? So that's where the second point talks about assessing exam readiness, identifying knowledge gaps, enhancing time management skills, understanding the question patterns, reinforce learning, and then based on the outcomes, you can actually build your own exam strategy. And at last, it assists you in boosting your confidence, right? These are some of the resources where you can find the good quality mock exams and practice tests. Beside this, there are dumps also available, which probably have some real questions from the exams as well. Those are not official ones. Those are always, tricky ones. Sometimes you might be lucky to get actual real question set. Sometimes it may be tricky. So don't fall prey to that. Even if you get a genuine one, don't just depend on that because questions keep on changing. Point is, even if you feel that, okay, these are the questions because I got the latest dump and my question set will be from this only, use it only towards the end of your preparation. Once you start feeling confident that, yes, I am ready, probably that's where you can set up your practice with the dumps. So usually what I used to do or what I used to recommend earlier was like creating an Excel sheet with the questions or maybe a PowerPoint presentation with the question on the top with the options at the bottom and noting down the answers somewhere in the notebook within the given time. So suppose 30 seconds I dedicate for a question. The slide changing also can be controlled with that, right? With PowerPoint. So within that duration, I have to answer it in the notebook. And at the end, compare it with your DUMS results or DUMS answers. Directly don't look at the answers which are given in the DUMS. Sometimes the answers are incorrect as well. So make it sure that the answers which are there in the DUMS are also correct before you attempt. Use it wisely, then it is useful. Otherwise, it's very dangerous. Okay. How to analyze mock exams and practice test results to improve your performance. So first thing you should focus on is reviewing the incorrect answers. Questions not attempted due to timeout probably requires more better time management. That's a default thing. But then whatever questions you have attempted and some of which are incorrect, review the incorrect answers, try to find out why that is incorrect, what is the correct option for it, and try gathering more information about it, try doing more practice on hands-on practice on that area so that next time you don't make the mistake. Keep on repeating this until and unless you actually stop making the mistake on that area. Right, so review incorrect answers, identify weak areas, revisit study materials, any additional resources, hands-on practice. Once you are done with that, retake the practice test and keep on repeating this again and again. As I said, until and unless you get positive results. Okay. Exam day tips. Very basic tip is there. Suppose today is the exam at 4 p.m. Your practice test is of 3 hours. Maybe around 10 a.m. you can get one last attempt on the practice exam. The results will most likely boost your confidence. You will go with more positive mindset to attempt your actual exam, right? So just one last time you attempt your practice exam and head straight to exam center if offline exam you are taking, or else just log into online proctored exam if you have chosen the online proctored exam option. Don't do anything else. Don't read anything on exam day. Whatever reading, whatever practice you need to do, that should be a day before at the most. So this is very general thing. I'll not just go through each of the points here. You know all the stuff. Yeah, there is one additional thing which I would like to highlight. Like for each question, you have an option of bookmarking or flagging. So if you need to review some question or if you need more time to analyze it, you want to keep it aside and attempt later. So bookmarking or flagging is the option you can use. and you can directly jump through the bookmarked or flag questions one by one at the end. This way you save time on the specific questions. Attempt all the questions which you are confident about, and then the save time probably, or the remaining time probably, can be utilized for these flagged and bookmarked questions. Right? Attempt them. Then again, before submitting, review all the questions, and then once you feel confident that yes, all the answers have been marked correctly, submit the test. So once you submit, immediately within 5 minutes you get your uh, results printed. Okay, so that is it for today. Now there is a small activity just to find out like what all things we remember for this presentation. A set of 5 questions are there. Uh, again, the MCQ based. It should be easy for you guys. I'll put all the questions one by one on the screen, and you have to answer using chat box, or probably you can unmute yourself and you can just speak out your answer. Preferably if you put it in chat box, that will be good. Okay. So shall we start with the quiz part? Here comes your first question. What certification path does the AZ400 exam belong to? Option A, Microsoft Certified Azure Administrator Associate. Option B, Microsoft Certified Azure Developer Associate. Option C, Microsoft Certified DevOps Engineer Expert. Option D, Microsoft Certified Azure Solutions Architect Expert. Please use your chat box, guys. I can see only 3 responses till now. At least 50% of you should be answering this. Path means the beginning exam. Sumesh is asking. So no, Sumesh, it's not beginning exam. Path means a complete pathway in which there could be multiple exams being placed, and the order in which you appear for those exams ideally is recommended by Microsoft. It could be an exam at the beginning, it could be an exam at the middle or at the end also. So that path you can check on the official Microsoft certification website also, right? So it's a series. Path means series. Yeah, so most of the people have answered option C. That's correct. It's Microsoft Certified DevOps Engineer Expert. Next question. What is the passing score for AZ400 exam? It's easy. It's B. Correct. Next question. Which section of AZ400 exam focuses on designing and implementing application infrastructure? Yeah, that's C. Define and implement application in infrastructure. Easy. Your question itself has got an answer into it. Next question is, what is recommended approach to study for the AZ 400 exam? So it's kind of all of the above. Memorize services, that may not be enough. You need hands-on as well. Theory cannot be ignored. Then online forums and community discussions, all are important, along with the official documentation, taking practice exams, right? So it's option C. Next question is, which tool allows you to define and deploy Azure resources as code for infrastructure development? It's B, Azure Resource Manager templates or ARM templates. We discussed it. Okay, so that is it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Next 5 minutes, I'll take questions. You can unmute yourself, ask the question. You can put the question in chat. Both are welcome. Yes, anybody?
Hi Saket, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
What should be the ideal timeline we should consider before preparing the exam? Like how much should be the preparation time? How many days?
Say if you are already working as Azure DevOps engineer, probably 15 days is enough, because most of the features and services you might be already working with, you might already have the hands-on experience. So you just need to focus on the exam scenarios, right? So directly you can start with the practice test and identify the weaker areas. So that will not take much time. So 15 days is more than enough. But if you don't have the experience on Azure DevOps platform, probably then you might need more time. So it could be 1 month to 2 months. 1 month is enough in case if you have worked with any other DevOps platform or tool. And if you have never worked on DevOps at all, probably 2 months is something what you need. Got it?
Yes, Saket. Thank you.
Welcome. Yeah. Anybody else having any other question? No questions? Okay, Payal, you there?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you can go ahead with the feedback and all.
Yeah, I have mentioned the link in the chat box, and I request everyone to please fill the feedback form.
Meanwhile, thanks guys. Thanks for your time. Thanks for attending the session. I hope you found it useful. Payal can share my contact details in case if anyone wants to reach me for any guidance on the same. Feel free to reach me anytime. Okay, I'll take your leave. Bye bye, and have a good day.
Thank you.